Hi everyone, welcome to the study of lesson 11, September 6 to September 12. The topic says apostasy and intercession. And all we can see here in the picture, we see a young man, Moses, and you also see something like a calf, a calf that is tied. And Moses is seemed to have raised his hands up. The key text of this week is from the book of Exodus, chapter 32, verse 31 and verse 32. And it says, Then Moses returned to the Lord and said, Oh, these people have committed a great sin, and have made for themselves a god of gold. Yet now, if you will forgive their sins, but if you not, I pray you blot me out of your book which you have written. I will repeat again. Exodus chapter 32, verse 31 and 32. Then Moses returned to the Lord and said, All these people have committed a great sin, and have made for themselves a god of gold. Yet now, if you will forgive their sins, but if not, I pray you blot me out of your book which you have written. And here we see that the story begins. The background is that Moses was absent for 40 days. He was not staying with the people of Israel for 40 days. And what happened during this time that Moses was not available? It was so amazing, something that was unexpected. God's people turned away from worshiping God and went to worship the human-made idols. And people may wonder, after so many mighty signs and experience that people experience, they still have the guts to do all these. They still have the guts to disappoint God in such a way and try to worship a human-made an idol. There could be so many answers, and some people will be like, why would they do this? Did these people not understand who God was? Were they so much overshadowed with sins? Was their understanding clouded that they couldn't understand who God is? You may think a lot and try to imagine the way God is so merciful with big merciful actions. How could these people do this? How could the Israelites go ahead and worship an idol? They get to understand why intercession that was done by Moses. On Sunday says faith leadership. Faith leadership. And here we're going to learn about Aaron, who failed in his leadership. God called Moses to stay with him up on the mountain for 40 days. And for that period, Moses went up and left Aaron. But for the Israelites, it seems too long for the Israelites to wait. The visible leader, who was Moses, was absent. And now they became impatient, they became disoriented, they became fearful and very insecure. They wanted a visible God. They wanted a God whom they can see. They didn't want anything else, but they wanted a God who they can see, whom they had seen all their lives in Egypt. Remember, Egypt used to practice an idolatry. So they wanted a God whom they can see, a God who can read them since Moses went away. And they said to Aaron, Please you make for us a God who can read us. And Aaron requested them to take the gold earrings from their wives and from their daughters. And from the gold earrings or those expensive things, Moses made made an idol, which is now a god calf. A god calf. I mean, they used now to worship a calf, saying that this is the calf that brought us from Egypt. People willingly gave out their idols, of course, and Aaron failed by making or leading these people astray. And he told them in verse 4 that this is your God, Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt, so sinful and wicked. How can the gold calf bring you out of the Egypt? It was so sinful. And we can see here, in one way or another, Aaron failed. And that's why the topic says failed leadership. That Aaron failed in what he did this time. There was some who remained true to their covenant with God, but the greater group of people, they joined this apostasy. Aaron feared for his own safety, and instead of nobly standing up for the honor of God, he yielded to the demands of the multitude. How many times have we feared for our safety, and we got into things that we never planned for? But because of fear, you feel as if God is a human being like you. You feel he can't save you in that situation, and you engage into the demands of the others, into the demands of the multitude. That's what Aaron did, and see how much he failed. We have failed so much in our leadership. Remember, by you yourself, you are leader by yourself. You lead your own self on what to do. May God help us that we don't fail, but we stand up for the honor of God. Monday part says idolatry, and evil. We get a book to read from the book of Exodus chapter 32 verse 6. And here we can see in today, Monday, we are going to learn how dangerous is idolatry, the sin of which we call idols, worshipping the idols. We can see after these people began to worship these idols, they quickly turned into drinking. They quickly turned into sex, fornication, all types of, it's sin. And this golden calf resembled and God whom they saw in Egypt. And this was the violation of the second commandment, that you should not worship other God but me. They went ahead to worship the idols, praising the golden calf that it has brought them out of Egypt. And quickly after they began to worship these idols, here's the point, that they turned into drinking and they turned into sex. The book of Exodus chapter 32 verse 6 tells us that they quickly turned into them. So when you start practicing idols, you quickly turn into so dangerous sins. I mean, idolatry brings some other sins. You see, it's a sin bearing another sin. In the book of Romans chapter 1 verse 22 to 27, we can see that idolatry quickly destroys the relationship between us and God. It will quickly rupture that relationship that you have with God. And sometimes we may think those people, by making a calf, they did what was wrong. Of course it is wrong. And we think for ourselves, we cannot go to that extent to worship an idol. But we have made our TV our idol. We have made our money our idol. We have made our lovers our idol. Anything that pleases God is an idol to you. You love something so much until you forget about God. Little did you know that there is no much difference between you and in this time the Israelite deities. It's only the difference of idols, but they are all idols. Tuesday part says corrupting themselves. And we can see how the people of Israel corrupted themselves. In Exodus chapter 32, verse 7 and verse 8, where did God send Moses back to the camp of the Israelites? Remember, Moses went there to stay for a long period that these people felt we can't wait. For 40 days, we can't wait. And they felt Moses has stayed there for long. And that's why they made this a golden calf. A calf. They corrupted themselves by what they did. And we can see that God quickly sends Moses back to them. By turning to the idol, the Israelites would quickly divorce or separate themselves from true God, the one who delivered them. And in verse 7, we see that the Lord said they have corrupted themselves. They have corrupted themselves. Their thinking and feelings were distorted completely corrupted. They cannot think like this is not God. The feelings is corrupted. And that's what idolatry does to us. Idols, worshiping your money. You feel you can't do without money. You feel money is everything to you. For sure, money is everything. If you want to buy something, you need to have money. If you want a good life, you need money. If you want a good health, you need money. Because when you're sick, you have to have money to pay for the hospital bills. But again, money should not be an idol, should not replace God. That's my point, that you should not love something to an extent it will replace God. We often wonder why these ancient believers were so naive. They were so uncorrectable when they engaged in worshiping different human-made idols. We think that these people were very naive, they were very uncorrectable, no one could correct them. But the idols of today may have different shapes, may have different forms, but they are still similar to what the people of Israelite experience. They are the same thing. And idol, of course, is something that we place God. Even though we know it is not right, we still worship it. You know it is not right, you still go ahead and worship them. If God is not at the center of your life, then other gods will fill its place. It's simple as it is. If you don't place God at the center of your life, then be very sure that other gods will get into his place. If we do not enjoy and cultivate God's living presence, we enjoy and devote our lives to something else. If you can't give God chance in your life, then you're going to give something else chance in your life. There are people who have already given they placed God with football, with sports, and they feel they can do nothing without watching that ball. They feel they can do nothing without attending a football match. It's so amazing. And we think we are different from the people of Israel. We have already corrupted ourselves. What substitute have you made? Have you made it for power, for sex, for food, for TV, drugs, alcohol, impure thought, pornography, family, videos, the video farms and video games, the shopping, the ideas, the politics, music, position, titles? There's so many things. You have a big title until you feel no. Having this title, I should be respected by everyone else, even including God. May God have mercy on us, that He may help us. On Wednesday part says, God righteous wrath. God righteous wrath. What was the Moses' reaction after he went to God, after he threatened them to destroy the people of Israel? From the book of Exodus chapter 32, verse 9 to 29. Moses himself had not brought them out of Egypt, but God endured it for themselves. that these people are praising a god calf. And they think that this calf is what has brought them from the Egypt to where they are. Nor Moses nor this calf, but it's God who brought them. So when they refuse to worship, thinking that they don't see Moses, what they don't understand is that it's not Moses who brought them, but it is God. As so Moses pleaded with God, stressing on his early promises. We can see when God threatened to destroy the people of Israel, Moses reminded them, remember the promise you made to Abraham, Isaac, that you would give them this land. Remember the promises you made to them. Remember how these people you brought them from Egypt. Now, God, you want the people of Egypt to say that you brought the people all the way from the wilderness, from Egypt, to come and keep them here? Moses was he prayed with God so much, reminding him of the promises he made to them. And he told him not to implement what he is planning to do, the threat. And God and Moses. When Moses approached the camp and saw the calf at his dancing, his anger burned out. And what Moses reacted? He threw the tablets down out of his hands and they broke down. Breaking the tablet containing the Decalogue was an external sign of breaking its content. God rebuked Moses for it, but later he commanded Moses to tear the two tablets and to replace. The first tablet, which you broke, God himself would write the commands. And what happened? Moses rebuked Aaron for surrendering to the demands. And when Moses came, was like, Aaron, you again? I thought you were a leader. And you remember Aaron used to go up to the mountain to meet God together with Moses and the other 70 elders. And we see that Moses rebuked Aaron for what he did. Why would you surrender to the demands of the people? And we learned on Monday that it's because of the fear. Aaron and fear to stand on the honor of God. So he ended up surrendering to the demands of the people. Aaron trying to excuse his transgression by blaming others and by magic. And he says that I threw it, that's now the God. I threw it into the fire and out came this calf. May I just threw it into the fire and you see this calf came out. And it's just an excuse that he makes. What made matters was that Aaron himself and be greatly honored of God and have been given many privileges which was including going up to the mountain with Moses and the 70 elders. You see what idolatry makes us go to an extent. We start to give an excuse and trying to we think magic happened, of which it is not so. And Thursday part says intercession. Intercession, here we're going to learn how Moses now intercede with the people with God for the people of Israel. And Moses went up to the Lord to make an atonement for the people's sin. Because of their rebellion and terrible things happened in the Israelite camp, including the deaths of many. And we see that when Moses came and saw the people how they were dancing and engaging themselves into sex and to this what Moses said, who are the people of God? Please come onto this side. And they came. When they came, he told them to take a sword and kill all the people. And around 3,000 people were killed that day. So many people were killed that day. And because their people remained strong with the covenant of God, they made to God. Remember last week we learned that this said, all that the Lord has said, we will do it. And you see, Not all people remain to the covenant that they made with the Lord. Moses went back to the Lord and said, "Oh, what a great sin these people have committed. They have made themselves gods of gold. But now, please forgive their sins. But if not, then blot me out of the book you have written me." And Moses here plays a role of Christ. No wonder Moses is considered as a type of Christ because of his intercessory prayer for the sinners and his willingness to offer all he has for the sinners. And here we see why now Moses is considered as a Christ. We remember when Moses was going with Aaron to Pharaoh, that he was considered as a Christ, and now Aaron was considered as a Moses, as a prophet in short. On Friday we get further notes. This week lesson has been stressing more or focus on God's work in the believers. And we have seen that the Lord can do in us immeasurable, more than we ask or more than we can imagine. This we can get it in Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20. We should not focus on ourselves and gratify our personal desire, because this will lead to idolatry. Instead, our attention should be on God and His power. He gives us strength which will lead to new and victorious life. May God help us. Since God can do immeasurable things that more than even we ask, may He help us to focus onto Him, not to focus onto ourselves. Because when we focus onto ourselves and our personal desires, we are going to disappoint Him. It is going to lead us into idolatry. And idolatry, we have seen that it quickly destroys the relationship between you and God and brings so many other things. So may God help us and help us to remain strong. Amen.